Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Kevin's Upfront Opinion today. So, what should we talk about? Well, what I thought I'd do today is, as I've done a few podcasts about the paranormal, I thought I'd do another one today because it's been a couple of weeks since I last did one. And what I thought I'd do about today is the place I've been to the most amount of times. Now, the place I'm going to speak about today, I've probably been to somewhere in the region of 30, maybe even 40 times. I have been into the tunnels of this fort so many times I've lost count. And I got to the stage, okay, well, I could actually predict what I was expecting to happen on a nightly basis. Didn't always go to according to a schedule, okay. And a lot of people will say, okay, and I know that they're going to say it, it's all rubbish, okay, which is fair enough, okay. I've always been the type of person that if I've gone to an event, okay, or I've been invited along, okay, I want to prove everybody wrong. Try and find out a reason why something's happened. Now, when I first started doing it, okay, after going to a few, okay, I remember saying, I never see anything. Why is it people keep on saying, oh, I can see this, or I can see that, or I can see that shadow there, or this shadow there, and I see nothing. And it wasn't until it was actually my father-in-law that said this to me, and he said, "Have you ever thought that you might be an empath or empathic?" And I thought, what the hell is empathic? And that's a bit of a long word as well. So can you try and make it a shorter word for me? Okay, so this is what somebody who's empathic is. They are a person, and I'll describe it for me. I will not see anything. I've never really seen anything. One occasion where I thought I might have seen something, but it could have been nothing. Okay, that's one occasion in the best part of a decade. But what I do get is feelings. When I say feelings, because somebody's hurt my feelings, and as the old saying goes, sticks and stones might break my bones, but my in-laws will never hurt me. Sorry, I should say that. I'll get in trouble for that one. No, but being serious, okay. Um, let's say, for instance, as an example, and it would be relevant for this actual video. Say, for instance, somebody's been killed in a certain place. It may have been hundreds of years ago. Okay. So somebody's been murdered in a certain place. Okay. So come fast forward to today, I'm not going to see that person. Some people might see the spirit or see what they think is that person. What I'm going to feel is potentially maybe his pain. I may feel his fear. Or I may feel the people that have done it, he or she, whatever it may well be, I may feel them. I may feel their anger or their hate or whatever they're feeling at the time was, I'm going to feel that energy. And sometimes that can be a scary thing. And because, and it's specifically my father-in-law that found this out, because he found out, and because he likes to get his own back on me, especially if I was at cricket and dropped a catch or anything, then I'm definitely going to get it. Okay. He put me in situations. He put me in situations where I might find things out. I might be able to find out information. So it can be really useful as a tool at the end of the day to actually be able to use it, to be able to go into a location. So, for instance, and I'll talk specifically about Fort Widley. Now, Fort Widley is one of the forts on Portsdown Hill that got built because the British Crown at the time were concerned that the French were going to try and invade. So there's a bunch of forts straight along, ports downhill, which points straight up to sea, just like the ones which are in Solent. So if the French Armada came across, boom, 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 they were going to get blasted out. Never really got used. Now, those forts are still used to this day, to a degree. Okay, and Fort Widley's one, like I've already said, I've probably been in there about somewhere in the region, into the tunnels, about 30 to 40 times. I've lost track how many times I've been down there. So it might be a bit more, might be a bit less. Now, I've been in the North Tunnel, which is the far end, the very far end. The East Tunnel, which last time I checked, is now closed off. You can't go down there. Okay, South Tunnel. And I've been down the West Tunnel. Okay, and I've been onto all the parade grounds and everything. So I've been all over Fort Widley. Now, when it comes to Fort Widley, there are a lot of stories that go on. Okay, and would I say some of them stories could potentially have truth in them? I would potentially say they are. There is truth in some of the stories potentially, and I'd also say there's a lot of BS that comes to the story. But like any story, which is potentially going to be the best part of 200 years old, it's going to be spun. It's a bit like Chinese whispers. Whenever you start at the beginning, the story by the time you get to the end, it's going to be completely different to what it was at the beginning. Now, like I said, as I've already said, I've been down there a lot of times, and one of the funny things is, with all the times that I've been down there, okay, there are certain things that have come up time and time again, okay, and one of the first things that I can honestly say, and I remember that it's one of the first times I actually went there. Okay, and we were happened to be actually late because we'd been at cricket, late finishing cricket match, my fault. And my father-in-law at the time, he said to me, before we go down and join everybody else, do you want to do me a favour? I said, go on then, what is it? He said, I want you to go into the room next door, and I'm just going to give you some like thousand sticks. I said, okay. And he said, I want you to come up with any information you can. About 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I thought, okay, all right. Now, obviously at the time, I never really knew anything about Fort Widley. I knew about it was a fort and the basic history of how it came about. And he sent me in there. And he came in and saw me. It felt like 5-10 minutes, but it turned out it was like 20 minutes, half an hour. And he said, what do you think? And I said, well, the only thing I could really come up with, and this sounds strange, okay, that there was like some kind of cook, whether he died in here or something along that lines. It was something to do with a chef or a cook. And he said to me, how the hell did you come up with that? I said, I've got no idea. And I remember my father saying to me, I still remember it to this day, it's clear as day. He said, that's the dumbest and most stupid thing that I've ever heard in my entire life. I thought, thanks. And he said, do you know why I say that? I said, I ain't got a clue. Enlightened me. He said, this used to be the bloody kitchen. I said, what are you on about, used to be the kitchen? Now, this room just looked like a basic room. Okay? Didn't look like, for instance, a professional kitchen. It just looked like it was a room that may be used for meetings and that type of stuff. Okay, it was upstairs. Okay, I thought, what are you on about? It's a kitchen. It can't be a kitchen. It doesn't even remotely look like it's ever been a kitchen at any stage in the building's lifetime. He said, yeah, it used to be a kitchen. So we ended up going to join everybody else. Now, when it comes to Fort Widley, now Fort Widley does have a history. And there are stories when it comes to that place that things have happened. As in, people have died, stories of prostitution going on, stories of children being murdered. You know, all that type of stuff has happened, has been alleged to have happened. You know, I've got no evidence to back it up that any of it has happened. But these stories go around. And one of the things that I can say as a person, okay, but I personally believe bad things have happened in them tunnels. After going down there so many times, and having the feelings that I've personally had going down into them tunnels, I would suggest bad things have happened. Wouldn't suggest bad things have happened in the South Tunnel, but two places I would suggest bad things have happened is in the North Tunnel, where there's the story of a little boy being murdered, okay, by 3 soldiers. It's allegedly 3 soldiers, and I've sensed them soldiers. Never sensed a little boy. I know of other people that have sensed this little boy. Okay, primarily women. When I say women, I mean women that are mothers. Okay, but like I say, I've never sensed this little boy in all the times I've been down there, but I've sensed the soldiers. And the other place, okay, is down the West Tunnel. Now, when it comes to the West Tunnel, there are a lot of stories of black magic and murder again that is allegedly happened down there. Now, what I've always found about that tunnel, okay, because it's a tunnel that leads into like amazing like canyons down there, is if I go down there and I'm in a group, I don't pick up anything. Never have. Ever. But, and this is the one thing I will say about the West Tunnel. The one time I went down there, and this was about 12:30 at night, because the irony was it was the first place we were supposed to go. And I always used to carry the Ouija boards, okay, and all the equipment for my father-in-law, because he's a bit of a softie. He's not as strong as he once was. Okay, so I used to carry all the stuff. And I was dumb enough, and I will say I was dumb enough because I was, to leave his Ouija boards down there. I don't think we actually used them on this occasion, because I've never been a fan of Ouija boards. I think they're BS, to be honest. Most people that do Ouija boards, they just push the glass anyway, or whatever instrument you're actually using. And it was on this occasion, so as soon as we finished that, we were due to go for break. And my father-in-law said, "Where's my Ouija boards?" Sugar. I said, "I think I've left them down the West Tunnel." He said, "Well, you know what you're doing straight after break, don't you?" "Yeah, go and get them." He said, "Yeah, that's right, you are going to go and get them." So, this was the first time I ever went down the West Tunnel on my own, in the pitch black. And the thing was, and I still remember it, now with these tunnels you've got to be quite careful, because lint in the sides, so you can cut yourself up if you're not careful, you get too close to the sides. And obviously I only had like a little headlamp, so it didn't light up very well. It's not like when you've got a group of you and the tunnel's well lit up. So I had to walk all the way down, pick them up, because I knew where I'd left them, which is where exactly they were. And I thought, right, as we were due to go to my favourite place, the North Tunnel, afterwards, turn around, pick it up, start walking down. And I start hearing footsteps behind me. And I think, what the fuck is that? And I know there's nobody down there. I'm the only person that's down there. And I thought, nah, it's just me, I'm just hearing things. So I stop, turn around, look, think, maybe it's a fox. Something like that. Maybe deer have got into the building. Nothing there. Turn back around, carry on walking. Go a few paces. Hear it again, hear footsteps going. Somebody's trying to wind me up now. Turn around again. Nothing there. Turn my light on, because I was actually walking in the pitch black. And I bolted all the way down the fucking tunnel. I thought, I ain't playing silly buggers today. Scared the living hell out of me. Now, a lot of people will say, Kevin, you're a wimp. Yeah, I'll take that on the chin. But I also know the stories of what happened in that tunnel. Was there anybody down there? No. Could it have been me just hearing things? Possibly. Quite likely that's the case. Could it have been a spirit or something? Possibly, but I never saw anything. You know, so you could go through your life questioning, was there something down there? Was there somebody following me? Was there somebody trying to communicate with me? Now that's a question I can never answer. And it's a question I'm not about to try and answer, especially on a podcast like this today. But sometimes, and I do say sometimes, things happen on investigations, like at Fort Widley is a classic example. And Fort Widley is a place that has ghost investigations virtually every week. Okay, sometimes there are things you just cannot explain. But the one thing I am going to say today, okay, as I end this, if you're thinking of going on a ghost investigation, always check out the company you're going to go with. Because I know people have heard about the TV programs, Most Haunted and all of these where it's rigged. And it was rigged. There's no hiding from that. It was rigged. But there's also a lot of companies that do the same kind of thing. So always, before you go on any ghost investigation, look into the company and think. Don't always think everything is real. Go in there with a clear mind and think, can I explain this? Is there any way that I can possibly explain this? Because sometimes, when it comes to a ghost investigation, you can quite simply explain things away. So, that's my personal view on it. If you're ever looking at a good place to go, Fort Widley is a really good place to go. And I don't earn any money from saying that or anything. You know, I don't do ghost investigations. I've done a ghost investigation probably in about three years, if not longer. So, never done one. Do give it a go. Can be a good night. But for now, thanks for watching. And I'll speak to you all again